Do not play the elevator game. Hey, I'm Sarah and 2 years ago I made a huge mistake. Perhaps the biggest mistake of my life. I was 14 and me and my brother Nico were staying in a hotel in California with our family. We got bored, so long story short we saw some videos online and decided to play the elevator game. At the time we were young and dumb, so therefore didn't know not to mess with these things. Our cousin Jenny went first. We each played alone to follow the rules, while me and Nico waited at the bottom. We waited about 10 minutes until she got back down to the first floor. She said that every floor she went to people were getting on and off, making her unable to complete her turn. Nico went next. He finished faster than Jenny and was in and out in 5 minutes. He said that the woman entered on the 5th floor and he went to the other world, but my brother's a compulsive liar. Next it was my go, and even though I was a huge skeptic I have to admit I was almost nervous. I stepped into the elevator, and as I watched the doors close my brother said to me through the gap back "See you in 5 minutes" as he could tell I was getting nervous. He knew that I knew he was a believer, so him saying that calmed me down a bit. I got through the first 5 steps without anyone else boarding the elevator. So I took a deep breath and pressed the button for the 5th floor, praying to God that the woman doesn't enter the elevator. The doors creaked open on the 5th floor. They were open for about 5 seconds and nobody was entering. When the doors started to close I thought I was safe. Boy was I wrong. All of a sudden the doors started to open back up still on the 5th floor. My heart was racing. Then I saw a woman's body walking towards the elevator. I instantly looked down at the ground and didn't see her face. From what I saw this woman was incredibly tall. She must have been at least 1.5 feet taller than me. She was wearing a long dirty white dress and had dirty bare feet. I cautiously pressed the button to the 1st floor and the doors began to close. I felt like I was in a horror movie. There was no way this was real. This isn't real. This isn't real, I muttered to myself. My back was facing the woman and I was looking down, but uncoiled still see her dirty feet. I kept muttering to myself until this woman took one large stride towards me back "I'm sorry my love, did you say something?" she said sternly. I stood there with my eyes closed in silence. I could feel the elevator moving. Only it wasn't going down. It was ascending. Supposedly to the other world. At that point I wouldn't have been mad if Nico and Jenny popped out saying it was a prank or something. The woman stood there hovering over me until we got up to the 10th floor. When the doors opened she stood there for a few seconds then quickly left. I couldn't believe what was happening. After the creepy lady was gone, I opened my eyes and looked out of the elevator. I was staring out of a gigantic glass window. I stepped out of the elevator to get a closer look. All I could see were maybe 3 street lights and a large red cross in the distance. Just like all the websites said. No people, no cars, just me. I was all alone. I was in the other world. In my moment of shock I heard a big bang which snapped me back into reality. I turned around to see that the elevator doors had shut. I ran over to them and repeatedly pressed the button to open them. It didn't work. I sat there and cried for hours. I cried myself to sleep. A few hours later I woke up to an eerie noise. It was almost like the sound of wind singing. I crawled over to the big glass window and looked down into the very dimly lit streets. In fact I wouldn't describe them as lit at all. It took a minute for my eyes to adjust to all the darkness. I couldn't see much, but what I did see creeped me out big time. I could see shadows gliding up and down on the road. All of them were gliding in the same direction. To the right. They were going towards something. I looked over to the right hand side of the window and what I saw is hard to explain. It was another shadow only it was bigger than the other shadows and sat on a throne on the hill. It's like all the other shadows were worshipping it or something. Around the big shadow there were smaller, but still big, shadows. They looked like guards. For the next few days I did anything I could think of to get those elevator doors open, but they just wouldn't budge. Every night the shadows did their same little parade ritual thing and sung and worshipped their leader. I remember crying every night at the beginning, all because I was all alone. Until I made a friend. Part 2 coming soon.